be more than human.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is J.R. Carroll. I am the author of the More Than Human novels, and today we are here to talk about critics versus you. Now, before we start jumping into this, I just want to say that the end of month giveaway is still going on. Every time you comment gets you closer to being picked as the winner. So just make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment as you watch this video. This video is going to be a little bit longer. You know, normally I try to keep my stuff at like 6 minutes or so, but it could be 15, who knows. But let's jump into this. Now, I got the idea to do this video, and I actually have done a similar video in the past, but one of the best, maybe the smartest guy on BookTube did a video a few days ago about this, and that's A.P. Canavan of A Critical Dragon. He is pretty much the opposite of me and my channel here, and that's one reason why I love watching his videos. He breaks down things so well. Like I said, maybe the smartest guy on BookTube, but he raised some interesting points, and I just wanted to kind of get my own views out there. I have points on here that I do agree with him on, but there are some nuance things that I think I can bring and talk a little bit more about. So let's jump right into that. First off, one thing, a lot of people, especially now, they're like, oh man, the critics are always wrong. The critics are terrible. And I will lean more towards movies in this because movie critics are more well known than book critics mostly. But a lot of times when something comes out, like your favorite book or a movie series that you really like, or a movie that you just went and seen, and you're really, especially if it's something you're very invested in, and you see a critic and they leave a bad review, sometimes we can feel personally attacked. We're like, well, this is my favorite thing of all time. How can you say it's bad? So we have this kind of feeling attacked, and there's also, a little bit of confirmation bias going on, where it's just like, you're going to choose to go and see a movie from a trailer that you're like, well, that looks like a movie that I would like. So you go and see it. And this part of it is very well seen within books, because I read 65 books last year, and I probably really liked 58 to 60 of them, so there's only 5 to 7 books that I'm like, and that's because you read the back of the book, you watch the movie trailer, and from there you can say, well, this is something that I would generally like. On average, this is the type of stuff that I would like. So you'll go into it just like you're not reading random books, right? So if you go through if you do star ratings, you go through all your star ratings, I bet your average book is going to be 3 stars plus, above 3 stars, right? So you're picking books that you're more than likely gonna like. Why? You're not picking random books. You're not going out and watching random movies. And that is one point that AP brought up. AP brought up the point of, well, there's a difference between amateur and professional. Just like in sports, you got guys who are professional bowlers, right? They don't enjoy bowling the same way that a person who just bowls on the weekends does. That person really they just enjoy the experience of bowling, just going out there and, they'll track their stuff. But a professional is there almost every day, bowling for hours to hone their craft. The enjoyment they get out of it is tweaking their game just by 2% here, 3% here, and then that's where they get excited. They get excited in the technical aspect of it, and that's what AP was was trying to say about critics is, they're watching way more movies, reading way more books than the average person. So they're not getting the same type of enjoyment. Like, we're going in there, just most of us are just like, and me, this is me, is like, I'm going into a book to just, I want to take me away. I want to enjoy it. I don't want to think about it. Just take me through your world. And that's also how I write. I want to just take you through the world, have a cool, fun time. And AP is, more the critical dragon, right? He wants to see the technical things. And one thing he's said is, a critic's job is not to tell you, and this is where I will disagree. A critic's job is not to tell you, whether it's a movie that you're gonna like, or whether their job is mainly to tell you, was it well done. That was one of his big overviews in the video. AP, if you're watching this, maybe I don't want to get you wrong, but I feel like that was one of the main points. It's like, a critic's job is to tell you whether or not it was well done. Was the cinematography done well? Was the writing done well? What is the director shooting at how is the scope and all that, the makeup, and so it's not to tell you whether or not it was good. And that is where I have to disagree. Maybe that is the purest form of being a movie or a book critic, but especially when I was younger, before the internet became the biggest thing ever. Yeah, Roger Ebert. It was like, people would read the paper before, like they wouldn't go, opening day or opening, whatever, or Roger Ebert would get to watch it first, and then they would tell you. And I can remember my aunt and uncle being like, looking at like, oh well, Roger Ebert says this is a 4.5 star. It was probably worth going and seeing. Like, that used to be what critics' job was to do, was to push people into movies and stuff. And that's why some critics have gotten in trouble over the years for being paid by these studios to say good things about the movies or the books. It's it's like, and like, even on our space of BookTube, if you get 10, 20 booktubers saying, oh yeah, this is a great book, it's going to blow up. I mean, Christopher Rocchio even said something to that effect, like with Petrick and Mike from Mike Book Reviews and Daniel Green really pushing his series. I mean, he's sent them personal messages saying, like, you saved the series, So it's not necessarily just to be like, oh yeah, it was done well. It is also to push. It is also to push and tell people, yes, this is worth going and seeing. You should go read this book, or you should go watch this movie. And I think most of us, especially, like, not people who only read 2 books a year or see 3 movies a year, but people who do it on the regular, that's their fun thing that they do. I think we're more in tune with what a movie is supposed to be and what a book is supposed to be, because especially in the movie genre, there's things called B movies that we love. AP brought this up, but like, I don't think he went too much. Like, we understand when something is horrible, but what term I like to use is horribly great. Like, we'll be watching a movie and be like, man, the acting is terrible, the freaking CGI is horrible, but man, this is hilarious. Like, this is great. Like, there are so many movies that kind of like, The Meg, Sharknado, all those sci-fi shows that they made, Cobra versus Python or whatever, all those stupid things they used to make like 15, 20 years ago, because they're horribly good, and we understand that. I think another thing is critics press on things that take themselves seriously. So if it's a book that takes itself seriously or a movie that takes itself seriously, then, the critics will be more critical of that. And a lot of times, and AP kind of set this challenge. He was like, well, look at your favorite movies and, see if the critics line up, because he was like, I bet that the critics actually like the movies you like most of the time. And I kind of did that. We'll put it up here, and I'm gonna try and go from memory because I haven't looked at it in a few days. But I just picked random movies from random genres that I think are towards the top of either my favorite or I really think they're the best in that genre of movie. And I picked Gladiator for like an epic, right? And I think it's around 79%. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. And then Forrest Gump, I think, is maybe the best modern movie ever made. And the critics have it at 71%. And then you'll have Bad Boys, the original Bad Boys, one of the best buddy cop movies ever, like 42%. One of the best new movies, a thriller, is Nefarious. They have it at like some like ungodly low number, like 30%. But Wizard of Oz, 98%. The Lion King, like 94%. I think Lion King is probably the best animated movie. And they're I want to say I have another one up here. I can't really remember, but as you can see, it kind of runs the gamut. We got like three of them. Oh, Saw, the best horror, hardcore horror movie ever, 50%. Now you could say that 50% or above is them agreeing with you because the way Rotten Tomatoes does it is like the percentage is what percentage of the critics liked it. But like I would say all these should be way high. And like 3 or 4, of them are. So it's a mixed bag, I just think that things can be louder nowadays against the critics, And years ago there was even a thing, where you can tell, or at least I can tell, when a movie is supposed to be a critic. Like I'll look at that movie, I'll see a trailer, I'm like, that's not gonna make a lot of money, but it may get some awards. Like even not even seeing the movie, just seeing the trailer, I can tell that movie is pushing for awards and not pushing to, make a lot of money. And vice versa. I can tell like, well, that movie's not gonna, from a trailer, like that movie's not gonna get an Oscar, but it's gonna make a lot of money. And there's nothing wrong with going either way. Although I will say, I hope you break even on your critic movie. But this was even addressed because they created the People's Choice Awards because all the movies that most people actually went and seen and enjoyed weren't getting any love from the Oscars. So they created the People's Choice Awards, and and there are good critics and bad critics and stuff, and sometimes the critics do get it wrong, such as The Dark Knight should have won Oscar for Best Movie of the Year. And I have watched some more than 6,000 movies, like, because that's all I did. Never went to party, never did any of that stuff. I just sat home or went to the movie theater. So I also feel like there's a choice there. You can read a lot of books, watch a lot of movies, and still not purposely go in and look at it at too critical of an eye. You can still look at something as a fan. And that's what I'm trying to do here on my BookTube channel, is to look at books as a fan of books. Not a critical, critic of books. So I can tell you how fun the book was. Are you actually going to have fun and enjoyment, and whether or not you have to look too deep into the book. That's my whole deal here. And really, that's the whole thing about critics. Like, critics are just different types of readers. There are some readers, like Philip and AP, that really want to dig their teeth into books and narratives and find every nook and cranny of the story and what it could have meant. And that's the critic. That's how a critic's going to look at it. They're going to try and tell you they're going to look at the technique. They're going to look at the pace, the structure of the sentences and all of that stuff. And then you have your more fandom. Is it a good story? Was it, did the characters make you feel something? Is it going to get you emotional at some point with whether it's sad, mad, happy, excited? Is it that's more of a fan's view. And I'm here to say there's nothing wrong with either way. critics enjoy movies, but they just enjoy them differently than us. And that's why you might find that, critics are wrong a lot of times because they're trying to enjoy a different way. And that actually, my final thought is, a lot of times what that will do is will lead certain genres of books and movies to be in more high regard than others, just because they're made more towards a critical eye. But let me know, was I completely off in this video, or do you agree with me? Either way, hit me in the comments. Make sure you check out my Patreon. You can support me for as little as $1. It all goes back to the channel or into the books. But more importantly, be more than human.